सहनावतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Today we've all assembled here for the occasion of Guru Purnima. What does it mean? What is its relevance in our life? Is it just doing a puja, having a function, and that's the end of it, and we're back to our mundane, humdrum living? Or is there something that we can learn from it? These ancient masters, our forefathers, who sacrificed their lives, sometimes dedicated their entire life to the research, culling of knowledge about ourselves, the world, and how we can relate to the world in such a way that we become successful, happy, and reach that elusive state of perfection or excellence is the theme. And this theme is more relevant today in the 21st century than it ever was before. Because as external development, worldly development, success and prosperity comes to us, which it should come, the greater is the need for internal enrichment to balance it. Otherwise, that which is a blessing becomes a curse. So what is its relevance in life today? First of all, we have enormous potential. That potential, the best among us, like Don Bradman, Wordsworth, Shakespeare, Einstein, luminaries like this have barely touched upon 5 or 10% of our potential, not to speak of the rest of us. And so therefore, speaking of incremental growth is meaningless. From 5%, if you go to 10%, 15%, it has no meaning. What you have to look at is exponential growth. Today in the world, people believe that you achieve success, excellence, and you grow to your level of incompetence. This is a Western concept. The Vedantic concept is that you grow to your level of perfection. The very fact that they conceived of human perfection and that they told us that our birthright is to reach that state. We are born in the world not to die as mere mortals, but to somehow find our way to perfection, to excellence. Why the Western world believes that you'll reach the level of incompetence is because somewhere down the line we lose focus. You look at examples like Maradona, fabulously talented footballer. What happened to him? What happened to Shane Warne? What happened to all the greats? They reached a certain level, and what happens is, along with that excellence comes the fringe benefits. And they mistake the perks for the job, and they get carried away by it. That's how we lose focus. So therefore, you have people like Michael Jordan, who thought he could play baseball. You had the Williams sisters, who started walking the ramp and designing jewelry. You had other sports people opening restaurants. And when they lost focus, they lost their competence, they lost everything. Therefore it is the gurus in the past, the greater the talent of the student, the more they protected them from media glare, protected them from public adulation. And the greater the incubation, the longer the incubation period, the more the studentship the greater was the achievement of the student. Today, nobody has the patience to persevere with it. Persevere with studentship. So, the first thing that we learn is to think big. Laghuchetas is being small-minded. Small-mindedness is when a person decides to leverage his or her talent for personal profit and gain. And that's the end of the person's talent. Instead, if you think big and decide to reinvest, redeploy, offer your talent in gratitude to that divine providence that gave it to you in the first place, what great achievement you'll achieve. So what Vedanta tells us, what these great masters, the gurus spoke of, is seek the infinite. And a byproduct of that seeking of the infinite is that you will gain the finite. Mind you, the byproduct of just the seeking, never mind the achievement. And the case study that we have before us, modern management speaks of case studies. Case study we have before us is that of NACHIKETAS. NACHIKETAS and Lord Yama formed a formidable team. They said the Guru Yama was Ashcharyavakta, a wonderful teacher. And the student was Kushala Labdha, was a clever student, a topper. You see, today's concept of spiritual life is that when a person fails in every other avenue in the world and he has no other option, then he takes to spirituality. This is absurd. How can a person who has failed in the world succeed in spirituality, which is far more difficult? What you need is a person who's achieved the best in the world. Kushala, Labdha, and this combination results in lasting benefit to humanity, proven by the fact that today, many thousands of years later, we are discussing this. Modern education has boiled down to, as a US survey said, information transmitted from the notebook of the professor to the notebook of the student without passing through the minds of either has boiled down to education today. This is not what true education is. What he speaks of is the Guru does not instruct, he inspires. He doesn't merely transmit information and data, but he illumines the soul of the student. And such was this wonderful team of NACHIKETAS and Lord Yama. Now we have to go into the background of this story because you may or may not know it. NACHIKETA's father was Vajrashrava, who performed a sacrifice, the Vishvajit sacrifice. And in the sacrifice, when you perform a sacrifice, you're supposed to offer gifts. And Vajrashrava, NACHIKETA's father, offered as gifts. He claimed that he'd given everything he possessed as gifts. But the truth of the matter was, he gave cows that were completely useless. They were so old that they had lost the capacity to reproduce, they lost the capacity to yield milk, they were completely useless. And this sounds familiar, doesn't it? What kind of gifts do we give? All the useless things that you have, you accumulate in one corner in one cupboard, and whenever there is somebody's birthday or wedding anniversary or something like that, you pick it up, give it a nice packing, and the more fancy the gift wrapping, the more useless is the gift. The Kathopanishad says, joyless are the worlds to which he goes who gives such gifts. Remember that. And Nachiketa sees his father do this, and he's filled with deep compassion for the father because he knows what the result of this is going to be. So he keeps asking him, he says, I am also your possession. Who are you going to give me to, father? He asks once and the father disregards it. Second time he asks, ignores it. Third time the father gets so irritated. We also get irritated with our children and say things that we don't mean, so did he. He says, I'll give you to mrityu, death. The only difference between us and him is that his son Nachiketas took it seriously. The father regretted the decision, but he said, remember the ancients, remember your forefathers who honored their commitment, and fulfill it. Doesn't matter what you said. So he goes in search of Lord Yama. Fearless pursuit of truth. And the first thing is, what helps him on this path is SHRADDHA. SHRADDHA is faith in one's infinite potential, faith in the goodness of truth, faith in the power of the infinite. Bernard Shaw says the opposite of faith is cynicism. And he said, call such people self-centered personalities with ailments and grievances, ever complaining that the world does not satisfy them. As against this, a person with Shraddha is a person who, as Joe Goldsmith says, has belief in a thing which you do not know until you come to know what you believe in, which is Atman, the spirit. We don't know it. And yet, deep within us, there is something which tells us there's got to be something beyond the world. And you pursue it until you come to know it, until you become one with it. Rabindranath Tagore says, faith is like the bird that sings while the dawn is still dark. And Shankaracharya says, Shraddha is the capacity of the intellect to take in knowledge, to absorb it, to integrate it into your system until it becomes an inseparable part of you. And with this Shraddha, he gains what is known as MUMUKSHATTVAM. MUMUKSHATTVA is the desire for liberation. Desire for liberation comes when there is an awareness that you are imprisoned. What is the difference between a home and a prison? You also go into your home, but it's called a home because you have the freedom to move out of that home whenever you choose to and re-enter. A prison is one in which you are condemned to remain. You've lost the option of moving out. And this wonderful personality of ours, the body, mind and intellect, we have converted it from a home into a prison because we've lost, by our own volition, our own choice, we've shut out the option of operating outside the body, mind and intellect. And therefore it is that it's become a prison. And when you become aware that you are imprisoned, there is this urge for liberation. Every creature has it. In the morning, if you go for a walk and you see a dog being brought out for a walk, how much the dog pulls at its leash to break free. Every animal has that. So does the human being. But then this questioning, this quest comes to all of us. The problem is the pressures of mundane living squashes it all. And we're back to our humdrum mundane existence, completely shut out from the mystery and the wonderment that makes life so meaningful. And on occasions like this, we revive this questioning mode. It's exactly like taking your car for servicing. The car that is in perfect condition, nothing is wrong with it, and yet you find the pickup is slow. It starts jerking, it's just some little problems come up. And when you take it for servicing, in a couple of hours it comes back absolutely fit. What a difference. That is our personality. So every time you go out into the world, you lose your pickup, your energy, your enthusiasm. All that wanes away. And it comes back when you re-expose yourself to these higher values. So this mumukshatva, the awareness that you're imprisoned and the desire for liberation, when that happens, Nachiketas goes to heaven in search of Lord Yama. And he has to wait for 3 long days for Yama to return because Yama is very busy with the London bomb blast. So he waits. And then he says, people in Yama's household are very perturbed because they have to make a Brahmana boy wait. It says a Brahmana guest comes like fire. In those days, they had immense respect for a sattvic individual, something that we don't have today. The Upanishad says, the foolish man who doesn't give to a Brahmana gets destroyed. Where are the sattvic people today? It is the sattvic people who maintain society, not commerce. And yet we have no respect for them. The scientists, the thinkers, the authors, the poets, the musicians, the philosophers. And if any society has no respect for them, that society is doomed, is what the Upanishad says. So anyway, then they had great respect. So when Lord Yama comes back, they tell him, this Brahmin boy has come and he's waited for 3 days. So Yama goes to him with great respect. Yama himself has great respect for him. He says, obeisance to you, O Holy One. And he says, I give you 3 boons. Now if you and I were given 3 boons, what would we say? Make me a multimillionaire. You know, there was a government officer who once in his tours in the district found an old jar, and he rubbed it by mistake, and a genie popped up. And the genie said, I give you 3 boons, exactly like Yama. That government officer said, make me a rich man. So instantly he became rich. Second boon, take me to the most exquisite holiday resort in the world. Straight away he went to, where is it? Langkavi. Third, my third wish is that I should never have to work again. You know what happened? Straight back to the government office he went. So, Nachiketas wasn't like this. What are the boons that he asked for? You see, never mind the guru, from the shishya we learn so much. The student, Nachiketas, a young boy, bright, brilliant. Oh, it's inspiring to just read of the boons that he asks. What are the boons that he asks? Number 1, when I left my home, my father was most disturbed. Can you imagine the state of the father who by mistake, in a moment of weakness, said, I give you to Mrityu, and this boy actually takes his word for it. He was most disturbed. He says, please appease my father's agitation because it's not his fault. Tathastu. Yama granted that boon, and his father was instantly appeased. The second, teach me Agni, fire sacrifice. Look at the way he goes about it. First obligation is to your family. Having completed that, next obligation is to society, to the nation, to the world. How many of us think in terms of contributing to the world? And here is a young boy who, when given 3 boons, all he had to say was, teach me Agni, sacrifice. And Yama was thrilled at it. He taught it to the last detail, and Nachiketas learnt it and fulfilled it so magnificently, so beautifully, that Yama was so pleased. He said, I give you a bonus, extra boon, that henceforth this Agni sacrifice will be named after you, Nachiketas. It will be called the Nachiketa sacrifice. And he gave him a garland. Then he said, now ask for your third boon. Little did he realize what Nachiketas was going to ask for. Third boon, teach me Brahma Vidya, that about which the greatest of human beings have doubts. They don't know where they're going to go after death. They don't know what's in store for them. They don't know anything about their life. That is what I want to know. That's when Yama was completely taken aback. Not because he didn't have the knowledge, not because he did not want to teach, but he wanted to make sure that Nachiketas was not coming on a mere whim or fancy, that he really wanted it. Now what we learn from this is, just asking for Brahma Vidya, not gaining it, just asking for it, look at what he gets in return. Yama says, Choose sons and grandsons who will live 100 years. You will have cattle, elephants, horses, gold, immense territory. You'll live a long life. You'll become a ruler of the world. You know, you don't understand this. It has to be interpreted in our language. What he means is, you will have the fortune of Bill Gates, Aishwarya Rai's beauty, Roger Federer's capability, what else? Mr. Shekhar Sen's captivating voice. All of that he gives him. Nachiketas is least interested. He sits there waiting patiently. So Yama says, Nachiketas, I'll give you something that is very difficult to get in the world. All these heavenly joys you'll get. The pleasures that are difficult to get in the world, the damsels in heaven you'll get. By now, Nachiketas has reached the end of his patience. So he replies, Shvobhava martyasya yadantakaita. All these are transient, temporary, or antaka, or death. What a fabulous statement. Imagine if you were offered, forget the whole world, this KBC 2 is coming up. Suppose you were told, guaranteed 2 crores you'll get. You will say, forget Brahma Vidya, forget everything. Focus he had. He refused to budge. He said, all these are temporary, transient. What are you offering me, Yama? Shvobhava means that which is here, this moment, next moment, it will not be there. For a young boy to understand that and to stick to it. And then he says, Sarvendriyanam jarayanti tejaha. It takes away, wears out the vigor and vitality of the senses, indulgence. Api sarvam jivitam alpameva. Also, all life is short. And the last nail in the coffin is Tavaiva vahastava nritya gite. So keep your horses, dance and song, and give me Brahma Vidya, Yama. When he says this, Yama is thrilled to bits. Aho buddhimatta tava. Oh, what a fabulous intellect you have, Nachiketas. He himself admires him. He says, even I settled for heavenly pleasures. I just got yajna, agni, sacrifice, and I got the heavens. Here you are, you refused even heavenly pleasures. And then he started, why Yama did this entire exercise is to make sure that Nachiketas was a qualified student. Number one, Viveka, the capacity to discriminate between the permanent and the impermanent, which Nachiketas has amply demonstrated all of these qualities. Vairagya, disinterest, dispassion for that which is temporary. Shad Sampatti, the 6 ethical qualities of sense control, mind control, titiksha, endurance, uparati, withdrawal, shraddha, samadhana. All of these Nachiketas has. Now the difference between a well-prepared student and an ill-prepared student is the difference between a dry matchstick and a moist one. Now in the monsoons, if a matchstick gets moist, wet, however much you rub, nothing happens. With an ill-prepared student, that's what happens. The guru gives all his might, everything he knows. There's no reaction from the student. Whereas, if you're a well-prepared student like all of you are, I can see it on your faces. The slightest suggestion is enough to spark off that illumination. And Nachiketas proves that, and so the first thing that Yama tells him is, even to hear of it is so difficult in the world nowadays. He's talking about then, Satya Yuga. Now what must be our condition? Why is it? You see, generations and generations of Indians were brought up on a diet of great stories. Stories of Rama, the exploits of Krishna, Sudama, Janaka, Sita, Shabari, which inspired people to live up to, at least aspire for that state. Today, what are children exposed to? Cartoons. The whole time Cartoon Network, so they become a network of cartoons. Swami Vivekananda says the touch of the soul can paint the most dreary place into the brightest of colors. It can throw sweet fragrance into the vilest of places. So that touch of the divine is what is missing nowadays. And in the Mundaka Upanishad, he gives imagery of two birds. One, the two birds, they're friends. They're sitting on the same branch.